Okay.
Good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad. Welcome to the 69th edition of Belizean Affair. Sitting with me virtually as my host is Mr. Roody Wade and Mr. Leonard Brackett. Mr. Wade is the chairman for tonight's episode number 69. With that said, let's go straight to the chairman for the reading, followed by Mr. Brackett with a prayer.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Leonard, for another for 69th edition of Belizean Affairs, and to our viewers and listeners both at home and abroad. Want to always thank you for your support. And like you rightfully says, Greg, we go straight to the reading, and I'll continue from Proverbs chapter 28, 1 to 10. It says, "The wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion. When a land transgresses, it has many rulers, but with a man of understanding, the knowledge, its stability will long continue. A poor man who oppresses the poor is a beaten the brain that leaves no food. Those who forsake the law praise the wicked, but those who keep the law strive against them. Evil men do not understand justice, but those who seek the Lord understand it completely. Better is a poor man who walks in his integrity than a rich man who is crooked in his ways.
Amen.
The one who keeps the law is a son with understanding, but a companion of gluttons shames his father. Whoever multiplies his wealth by interest and profit gathers it for him who is generous to the poor. If one turns away his ears from hearing the law, even his prayers is an abomination. Whoever mislead the upright into an evil way will fall into his own pit, but the blameless will have a godly inheritance. That's my reading from Proverbs 28,
Amen.
1 to 10. Leonard?
Thank you for your reading,
Thank you,
Mr. Wade.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Divine loving Father, we take this opportunity to come before thy presence once more. We pray that thou mayest hear our supplications, that thou mayest have mercy upon us, that thou mayest guide us as we undertake this program. Help us to present a valuable program that accrues to the well-being of our country and people. Please continue to bless our family members, each and every one of them. Thou knowest them by name and number, and wherever they are. Bless our friends. Bless our country of Belize, its people and its leadership. Bless this country of the United States, its people and its leadership, and the rest of humanity, we pray. We pray that thou must continue to help those people who are in harm's way and who are being hurt, sometimes for no justifiable reason. We pray that thou may have mercy upon them as well, Lord Father. Please guide us and protect us, and at last one who comes, please save us in thy kingdom, for us his mercies in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
We want everybody. We want everybody. Give me some of your everybody. Give me some of that cassava. We want everybody. We want everybody. Give me some of your everybody. cassava. Sunday morning, me wake up with me fish, make a cook with me hot dog. Sunday morning, Sunday evening. Next day me wake up, gone to market, me buy walking fish. How much is it? How much a pound? $1, $2, $3, $4, $4, $3, $2, $1. $1, $2, $3, $4, $4, $3, $2, $1. Oh yeah, out for puta. Boss, yes. Yeah, you see what's what. Listen to Mohaba Flores.
Again, good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad. Welcome to a 69th edition of Belizean Affairs. With that said, Mr. Chairman, we go to our first video clip.
I stand before the nation today as my administration completes 3 years in office and embarks on a 4th year of leadership through service. It is not the time to dwell on disasters we encountered, whether man-made or natural. COVID-19, total economic devastation, Hurricane Lisa. As a people, we sacrificed, stood together, overcame, and we moved on. As a government, led by Plan Belize, we focused our priorities on nation-building pillars: education, health, land, housing, and jobs. True to Plan Belize, we made a bold move towards free education in 4 high schools in Belize City and 5 others in the south, and we will add 12 more in the new school year as part of the Education Upliftment Program, a new initiative of this government. We have moved all fees from public health facilities to ensure that Belizeans have improved access to quality health care, including diagnostic services, medication, and surgeries, all free of cost. New clinics have been constructed, and we have broken ground on a new hospital in San Pedro and secured funding for a new hospital in Belmopan. The government has engaged in land clinics across the country as promised in Plan Belize. Thousands of first-time owners have received a parcel of land, and our people have been able to resolve land issues tied up in bureaucracy and corruption for many years. We have been able to provide starter homes for over 400 families across the country, with hundreds more in the pipeline. Additionally, the government has provided money for both the DFC and the National Bank to ensure that Belizeans have ready access to financing to build their homes. And our people are working. Our economic policies have been centered around creating jobs. Today, our youth coming out of school are able to find employment in a wide range of sectors as our economy continues to grow. These are only some of the highlights of our first 3 years in office, guided always by our Plan Belize. Belizeans will note that as government, we have not engaged the opposition as they spend hundreds of thousands on an incessant smear campaign. The opposition is not our challenge. Our challenge is inflation, which has driven up the cost of living. Our challenge is the alleviation of poverty, which continues to affect so many of our people. Our challenge is ensuring that we continue to fight crime, to ensure citizens' security. Our challenge is ensuring that all our people have equal access to opportunities and services. So rather than any sense of celebration, we enter this new chapter of service with renewed hope and determination. Much has been done, but there is much left to do. As a government, we remain focused on the upliftment of our people and the building of a nation. When we stand together as one people, always moving forward, we all win. May God continue to bless our beautiful Belize.
Mr. Chairman, I go straight to you, sir. The question is this a campaign commercial to the people of Belize?
You're so right on that, Gregory. I will touch on that, because I have, you know, something that I wanted to vent out, and we will continue that conversation on that commercial there. Um, as the people of this nation, and those who listen to us in the diaspora around the world, our supporters, they knows that we are all about people and nation, and we speak on issues that directly affect our people and affect our nation. Um, we are living in a terrible terrible time. We see what unfolding in other countries, and we have a lot of ills of our very own that I say this because what's going on right now is that in Belize right now you have a march and to show solidarity for Palestine, which everyone has a right to do, whatever they so chooses. And I will not elaborate much more on that. All I would like to say is that I would like to see some of these same elected officials that's out there marching and stressing their concern, which they rightfully have a right to do, right? It's public knowledge. We see them. I would like these same officials to organize protests because they have the ways and means to do it against what's really happening to our people here. Some of the very same things that they are marching on today is happening right here in this country as I speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I wanted to say on that, right? And again, it's a sad situation. But it ties into that commercial right there by the prime minister of this country. Sad situation. You see a innocent 4-year-old beaten to death by foster Mennonite parent, right? See, these are things too that I would like to see them march against. You hear today the Minister of Human Development spoke on it, right? Do I believe her? No, I don't. Who believe her believe what she says. That's right. Personally, I don't believe. But what I'm talking about is that I would like to see whoever they give these babies or these children to, that they take away from their parent and the court system, give those kids to foster parent. I would like to see them be properly vetted and properly placed, right? Because it's not the first time, right? Hundreds of incidents, just like what happened over the weekend to that innocent 4-year-old, had played out. You hear anything from our elected leaders? No. So, you know, I call again on the ills of this country, our elected leaders, people who elect to serve us and protect us, do something about the price of groceries, common groceries in the grocery stores for poor and innocent and poor and less fortunate Belizeans, right? Every week they go to the grocery store and the Chinese groceries keep putting up their price every week, right? What is being done, right? Got joblessness, lot of that, right? So I I I, I call on the government, right, officials to stop lying, right, and come clean to the nation, right? We have an economy that is failing. Inflation is an all-time high. Joblessness. These are things that people are living. We are living it. And you hear that man talk about it in his commercial just now. Gregory just played it. Crime and drugs, gang situation in our country at an all-time high. Poverty, and not to mention the failing healthcare system. And for the record, that has nothing to do with the nurses and doctors. They are doing the best they can with what they have, with the little they have, right? So I'm not venting because of the performance of the doctor or the nurse. No, I'm venting because of the performance of the government who collect taxes to equip our healthcare facilities, and they don't, right? They don't do it the way they should do it. They don't put the money where they should put it. They don't care. They do not visit our public health hospitals or public hospitals. They don't. Name me one that goes to the public hospitals. So do they care? No. Right? We keep hearing horror stories from patient, poor people, the things they go through. We talk about this on last week, and we played about 2 or 3 incidents at the KHMH. But yet you hear the Prime Minister says all is good with the healthcare system. He just said it, right? So please, man, stop the lying, right, to the people and come clean. That stuff played out, right? We want to see nepotism wipe out, because some jobs there, but only certain people get it. You hear the man say about jobs there, right? But only for certain people. And he can't talk about the BPO because, create that, to create their jobs, right? So, we want to see them to start to come clean, right? And we want to see the self-greed, the self-interest, right? We want to see the corruption stop the government elected officials, because we got a lot of that, right? We want to see them do the right thing, right? And we want leaders who are, who have a heart and who want to help nation and who want to help the people, right? And not the other way around, right? So, you know, my thing is that, you know, I just want to see them do a better job, man, and start to do right by people, right? And do right by the nation and stop lying to the nation. And I know this is a campaign time, right? This is campaign time. Everything now the author is about campaigning, right? And you know, these things are played out, man. So, you know, that's my little contribution and my little gripe. So guys, like you rightfully asked there, Greg, if that clip you played is a campaign message he's sending. Yes, it is, right? And like I said, the people are living it, so they should be able to determine whether that man they tell the truth or they lie, right? Because it's not the first time. This is the way they operate, past and present. And sadly, the things they do around election time is all burden to the taxpayers because nothing they do come out of their pocket, right? It's all paid for by the taxpayers. Everything, right? The assets they use, the vehicles they use, right? The way they move around, the food they eat, in these times is paid by the taxpayers, and it's all about campaigning for the next general election. That's my take on that clip there, Greg. Back to
I
you
thank
there.
you for your I thank you for your input on that, Mr. Chairman. I go straight to Mr. Brackett for his comment on that.
Uh, I want to touch specifically on the issue of the child that was, I would say, murdered. Let me just get to the point and stop beating around the bush. We're talking about a snuffed out
It's
life
manslaughter,
that did not deserve.
Leonard.
It's
They said it's manslaughter.
I know the intricacies on the process,
Damn.
but for them to prove murder, they will have a harder time. So they're trying to go with what they think they can prove easier, so they can have an easy case. But even with that easy case, what we should be asking for as Belizeans is justice, regardless of the age of the people, regardless of the ethnicity, regardless of the race, regardless of the religion, regardless of what. How the hell a human being, an adult at that, to get into such a rage that they will discipline a child at about approximately 4 years old
4 years.
to the point of executing them? The child is dead. The circumstance under which the child is dead may mitigate the charges that they place on the person. But at the end of the day, how can a human being, an adult, and someone who pretends to be of a religious conviction, who should have the trust of the community, would discipline, because that's what they said they were trying to do, discipline the child, because the child wouldn't respond to them appropriately in terms of what they were trying to teach the child about. That kind of crap was in slavery days. When you beat a slave to death, if they don't want to respond how you want to respond. That is intolerable in our modern society today. And it's not in their one child at that. Where is their compassion? Is that the way they relate to their own children? How many of their children they are beaten to death like that? Do they have any children themselves? The system that we have dealing with these foster care, not only just in Belize, out here in the States it happens too. And it happens all over the world. We're dealing with human beings, and those human beings need to be vetted properly and be checked on periodically. They need to be assessed. You can't take it for granted that, okay, well, take away the kid from their one parent and you know, get to the additional extended family members because you don't want to give nobody else in the family no resource to help take care of the kid. So you want to take one stranger and give the kid to a stranger and give the stranger the resource. At that, most strangers who adopt don't need the resource anyhow. Some of them do it to get the resource, but most of these people, when they adopt because they just probably can't have children of their own, or maybe they're just kind-hearted and they want to contribute or help the society. There are different reasons. But how can you go from wanting to have a child adopted under your care to end up assassinating that kid and then try to find a way to get off as easy as possible off of any potential charges? Why didn't they just turn the kid back to the system if they couldn't handle the kid? It's a simple way. Turn the kid back to the system. Then now the people in their community are going to go back for them, so that they're not given the full weight of the law. And there are people within the system who I would say probably had a dereliction of duty because either they didn't vet those people correctly or they weren't checking on them or letting these people know that they'll be checked on periodically, so that at least they would have known that something was going on wrong with this kid or with this family. Too much craziness is going on in our country. And while the child may have been dead already by now, it should go all of us. It's not the first time a child has been assaulted in our country or killed. We have had babies being used as by predatory, sexual-minded people right there in our country. We have had these cases like that before. We have had cases where these knuckleheads run around and they shoot at each other, miss each other, and end up shooting kids or parents, other individuals that have nothing to do with their stuff. Our society is becoming chronically, I don't know. It's not that I'm running out of words, I'm just frustrated with the fact that we have people who are supposed to be running our system of governance who are not paying attention to what's happening in the society. And then they want to come and talk afterwards and say all kind of stuff, all kind of excuses. We solve those problems by not letting them happen in the first place. And that is where management comes in. When people fall along on their job while they're still collecting salary for doing their job and not doing their job, that's when you have these kind of crises occurring. Then everybody scamper like roaches afterwards to try hide and pretend like, well, they had nothing to do with it or it's not their fault. While a child is laying in the morgue, being ready for to be buried. Wouldn't that child probably would have had a better chance to be with other family members? When children, parents then died, don't the family members that take them over and try and find a way to carry them through life until they could grow up and handle their own and take care of their own self? Why don't the government children's services provide some support for some of these families? Because some of those families are carrying that burden to help their one family members, but some of them don't even have one job. So then they have to scrape and do whatever they can to be able to make do. And the system doesn't go and look for those people and find a way to support them. That of itself is a tragedy, because the system is supposed to be capable of handling that kind of situation. But that's, I'll have to leave that one for right now, that part. I just want to go back to the other part with the Prime Minister's comment.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Wade and Greg, the question about whether or not that was a campaign speech, those of us who pay attention to that type of stuff recognize it right off the bat, that that was what was intended. Trying to bamboozle the people again. First thing come out of my mouth is, oh, well, they're celebrating their third year of their Plan Belize implementation. When, as the third year has been, when they have arrived at the third year, they have put on the books a whole lot of different laws, none of which they told us that they wanted to put on the book before we voted for them, or that they were hoping for us to vote for them so they can get on the book. The one single law, specific law, that they agreed that they was going to put on the book if we gave them the chance to vote them into office, UNCAP. Oh yes, they will do it. Kick out the UDP, give them the chance, because they will do it. UDP don't want to do it. They refuse to touch it. And that's a lot that we need to put in place or have in place so that we could stop the present government and any other future government ministers or employees or whatever from doing what the other people they had done before. And maybe we could actually go back after some of the people that have done those criminal actions against us before and use them as an example for others in the future and deter that type of behavior. But they don't want to put that on the book. Why? They want a free-for-all. They want to continue doing the very same thing they were doing before, and which we are now finding out that they are currently doing. But they go and make laws to create problems for us in the society and to use those laws so that we can become scarflaw. Because the laws that they are making in the first place, some of them are unconstitutional. I have some constitution quotation that I wanted to read, but at this point, I don't know if I should read them now or maybe just probably read them later on after Greg has his say, or somebody else, because the program, we don't want to abuse the program, but these guys are a bunch of scoundrels. And I'm telling you, Belizeans, they're not making these laws out of ignorance. They know exactly what they're doing and that they're putting the pressure on the general public so that as a distraction from the public demanding that they comply with their campaign promise to put UNCAC in place. The next 2 years is going to be expiring, and I can bet you my last dollar that it will not be in place by the time that this 5-year term is up, if they don't call the election early. And the UDP is not putting themselves in any kind of favorable situation to hopefully come back and promise to put UNCAC in place. Because anything else that they are trying to offer, people don't care about. People want a reprieve of them ripping off and stealing our assets or appropriating our assets and then turn around and not pay no taxes on the assets that they take away from us. Not only do they deprive us of our assets, but we don't get no taxes. And then they come to us to raise the taxes to get the money to pay the wage bill. Then they come and tell us, okay, well, you have to make these laws because the IMF require these laws. The United States require these laws. And for the banking system require these laws. And a whole lot of shenanigans that they pull on our eyes. In fact, some of the laws that they are making, like I said, are unconstitutional. If they don't like the constitution that we have, change it.
Thank you. Thank you there, Leonard. Thank
You're
you.
welcome,
Greg, you had something to contribute to your clip you put up there.
I thank you guys for your input. Firstly, I believe that when it comes to the child that was killed. I believe that the charge manslaughter came because the children welfare does not want to be caught up in the act. And if they had charged for murder, it will mean that they did not do a proper vetting. Everybody knows that when you commit a crime and you go to trial, you have been tried with a jury of your peers. So the first vetting go to family members, and after family members, it should still be your peers type of person in your category. I believe treatment of that child was out of bounds and should not happen, as well as I believe that the charge does not fit the crime because to me it falls under premeditated when you keep doing that for days. I do not believe for one instant that the child was whipped on one day and that happened. I believe that it was a continuous thing going on, and
But Greg,
the
what
effect
kind of whipping
overall
it has to
has
be?
that
I mean, in the
outcome.
slavery days when I used to whip them slaves, then whip them till they lose consciousness. What kind of whipping
You.
and what state of mind would a person be in to whip one child and have no compassion to say, well, I'm an adult and I'm whipping this child or disciplining this child, and I need to be able to do it with a bit more reserve or restrictiveness or more control. To
Right.
have to end up acting like a
I
demon.
agree. I agree with you, sir.
Man,
But again, back to what I call a campaign commercial, Mr. Wade. You said a mouthful. We had a young lady who had speak her mind and going to a hospital, and they asked her to bring back her tape. And as you said, she's not the only one because let's hear it from an employee herself. Let's get down to the nitty gritty.
We've seen it grown, with equipment, with staffing, with training and stuff like those. So I must say that we've seen growth in the unit, but we still have a long way to go. We still, well, we can do with more equipment, um, more training for our staff as well, more staffing, because we're very short of staff. But we do with what we have. For example, sometimes you would work, one nurse would have 6, 7 patients. That should be 3 nurses assignment. So we do it and we do have success from those. But if we would have the 2 or 3 persons to deal with those, the delivery of care would be better and more efficient.
There you
Gentlemen,
go.
you heard it from an employee. The service that they are doing, as Mr. Brackett said, they are trying their best, but they cannot fulfill the task because they are lacking adequate things to perform their duty as well as nurse shortage. That was a part of the campaign commercial. Let's go to the next clip where the Prime Minister said that they were
Oh,
creating
before we
jobs.
go there, right? Let me just compound on something that I said about the Minister of Human Development. Don't want to get for people to take it the wrong way, right? But when I says that nothing she says on this last interview about the situation, about the death of that child, and and other things, right? why says that I don't believe a word she says. I'll just give you one instance and I'll leave it like that, because she says that everybody in her area the last time was helped on the hurricane distribution of help, right? She says everybody, which a lot of people did not receive the help in her area, right? And like I say, I
It's
could
not
take
just
her
today,
to
yet.
some of
It's not
these places and these people that wasn't helped. So when I say that I don't believe anything this lady says because of what I just said, right? So, you know, a lot need to be done in that department, and she needs to straighten up that department. And I call on a total investigation into that whole scenario, right, in her department, right? I don't, this is where I could vent it. I call on a independent investigation into that department and as to how this particular placement came about and how they do placement, right? That's what I wanted to compound on there, Greg. So thank you
Mr.
for,
Chairman, I would say that they should welcome your request or your hopes, because if they were to be doing their job, they shouldn't have no fear. When something happens,
exactly,
all you have to do is figure out why it happened and try not to make it happen again.
exactly,
So you're within your rights
exactly,
to point that out. I mean, you're someone who has
exactly,
dealt in that field before.
exactly.
I've heard you make those comments before. So you know what you're talking about. And they should welcome your input.
So for the
Mr.
record, go
Chairman,
ahead, Greg.
Mr. Chairman, well said. And as I pointed out before, they are talking about waiving hospital fees. And I just play that clip and you see what is happening. When people was going and paying, they were not getting the service because the hospital is not equipped enough to deal with the people. Now, also as a part of that commercial, he mentioned about jobs. The question will always be, what jobs has the past or present government created that is long term? There is none, in fact, even when he speak about school coming out of high school, and we can prove it here.
Are you suggesting that the IT vets are failing and that this program would do better as opposed to all the other trade programs that they have in place? You also mentioned that people are leaving the tourism industry to come and work in the BPOs. Does this also mean that chances are a good paying job in the tourism industry is just as hard to find?
First, answering the issue of the IT vets, it is a known fact that the IT vets have not been functioning well. With the exception of the Orange Walk IT vet, and I always invite people to go and take a look at what has been done in Orange Walk. You'd be thinking that you're in a campus in the United States. But even if something is working well, it doesn't mean you can't find other opportunities. And here is an opportunity where we can be training our employees. You see, the IT vet, the concept with the IT vet is that when you finish, you can get a job. You could be an electrician, you could be a carpenter, you could do gardening, you could do construction working, AC, all kinds of stuff. So this would be just another service that they can provide, the IT vets. The second part of your question was the issue of that a lot of people in the tourist industry, they have been leaving to come and work here. It's not necessarily about that they're not good paying jobs, they're just not enough good paying jobs.
Gentlemen, you heard it from the Prime Minister. There is not enough good paying jobs. But in his commercial, he said they have created jobs, paying jobs. No, I know I don't have to revisit it because you guys and the public at home and abroad have heard the same thing.
So right on that. So
I
right
go to
on
you,
that.
Mr. Chairman.
So right on that, Greg. I'll yield to Leonard. Go ahead, Leonard.
Thank you, brother, for
Before we yield to Mr. Brackett, this was our first segment, and I want to show the public at home and abroad that when we have a government and when a government speaks, as I said, they tell on themselves because they make it seem as though they are doing something wonderful for the people, when all along they have other devious plans right below it that they want to achieve. And Mr. Brackett, I want to hear you after this.
The bill establishes a civil recovery authority, which will be the financial intelligence unit. The FIU will be vested with the necessary powers to utilize several tools under the bill to pursue civil recovery investigations and recover in civil proceedings before the High Court. The bill provides for provisional measures such as the power to freeze property in pursuit of an intended civil recovery application, or once an application to recover property has been made. The bill also provides the power to appoint a receiver to manage property that is the subject of a civil recovery application. The bill also provides for a property to be recovered through recovery orders and unexplained wealth orders. One of the highlights of the bill is the unexplained wealth provisions. Firstly, the Civil Recovery Authority would need to obtain a preliminary unexplained wealth order requiring an individual to file a declaration of wealth and appear before the High Court to answer questions. If the individual provides false or misleading information, it may amount to an offense. What was important here, Madam Speaker, is that we want to have the FIU the ability to be able to go after unexplained wealth and assets that were illegally taken. But at the same time, we have to ensure that we also protect the rights of individuals. Because as we said, in this country, we live by the principle that you're presumed innocent until found guilty.
No politician should come into politics to become wealthy. You come into politics to advocate on behalf of the people that elected you, to implement policies and to serve. It should be all about public administration. It certainly should not be about wealth. So I have absolutely no difficulty with this bill. I hope that it is retroactive. I hope that we can look, since the PUP always likes to look backwards, I hope we can go beyond 13 years and so that it can be a bipartisan bill and it's not a political bill that seeks to go after politicians in the opposition, but all politicians that cannot explain the source of wealth and assets that they have amassed since becoming elected members of the House.
Now, gentlemen and people at home and abroad, you heard about the civil asset and unexplained wealth bill. I personally can tell you that there are gross violators and that it is happening as we speak. When this bill first came to the House, I thought this bill will go after drug dealers and money laundering people. But I see that the government has changed their tongue and pointed this bill towards every Belizean citizen. And why am I saying this before I go to you guys? Is because within the government, there are still people not disclosing.
There was one year that I submitted extremely late, and that was ignorance on my part because I did not realize that I didn't have to wait to get all of my documents from the banks. I could have submitted an incomplete application form. And so that year I submitted late because I was back and forth with one of my institutions. The person was on sick leave, nobody else did it, and they forgot, and it was like a whole back and forth. So it wasn't something from my part that I didn't file. It was just that I could not get all of my documents on time to file on time. But I've always filed. Every year I file. And as leaders, we keep saying that we must be the example. And we know that this is a part of our obligation. And so we must do so, even if it is that you can't get all of your documents for the specified date. You submit what you have, and then you can always take the others in as you get them, and work on them. And I know at times it's difficult because you have to, when you file, you are filing for not just yourself, but you and your spouse. And we know how these things go. Sometimes spouses don't want to put their information public, and you can't blame them. My spouse is not a senator. I am. And so why should I be filing and saying, if you have, if you have a land, if you have a house, that kind of thing. So there are some little issues that people find, but it does not keep us from not, right, but it doesn't keep us from not filing because that's our obligation. So I do trust and hope that my colleagues, would understand the importance, but would also pay attention to the signal that gives, the message that it sends, that you as a leader, knowing your responsibilities, are not living up to those responsibilities.
Gentlemen, this
Chairman?
is one of the business secretaries
Wait,
who voted
Greg,
for this bill.
Greg, there's too many clips being queued up, too many items to address, and we're not having enough time to address them, and they're staying out there as thumbs. When we queue up the clip, we need to adjust the point so the public can stay along with us and understand.
I yield to you. Yeah, I yield to you on the first clip there, Leonard. Then we could,
because while each clip have its own validity or its own importance, because they're all important, we just can't comment on some and leave the others them out there without having a comment on them.
Let me express it in layman's terms for
we are a
you.
little bit more ahead of the public, and we understand what we're trying to do and how we're doing it, and we know what is behind it. But we have to be conscious that the public is not along with us on every step of the way because they're just not into
just elaborate, just comment on the clip before this one.
Let me read it specified.
With the Prime Minister, because
the Prime Minister,
let me
that was directly
specify
addressing
first.
an unconstitutional.
Go ahead, Greg. Not the last clip, the clip before.
Okay. As regards to the unexplained wealth bill, they should not have taken that bill to court, to Congress to pass it. If they really knew that they were violating the Constitution and trying to violate people's rights. And like I keep saying over and over, they have a lot of lawyers in their group. So I'm tempted to believe that they damn well knew what they were against and what they were trying to get done. And they went ahead anyhow and rammed the bill through, put it on the book. Now it's going to depend on people getting caught up with those problems to have to fight and hopefully get vindicated. Because these fools are turning around telling us we are guilty and we have to prove our innocence. Otherwise, they can come and take away your property. That is not what the Constitution says. The government have no right and authority to come to you and try to dispossess you of your property. Let me read the Constitution, please. I'll read. Okay, first I'll read the preamble, the part of the preamble that authorizes the Constitution citation, and then I'll read the Constitution citation that speaks to what the preamble was addressing in terms of telling the government how far they can go with violating people's rights. Let me go to just a second. Okay, what is it? Preamble paragraph C. Let me read paragraph C quickly. It's, uh, it's part E. I think I need to be reading, not C. I need to be reading E. Read it. Whereas the people of Belize believe that the will of the people shall form the basis of government in a democratic society in which the government is freely elected by universal adult suffrage, and in which all persons may, to the extent of their capacity, play some part in the institutions of national life, and thus develop and maintain due respect for lawful constituted authority. We the people require policies of state which protect and safeguard the unity, freedom, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Belize, which those policies which eliminate economic and social privilege and disparity among the citizens of Belize, whether by race, ethnicity, color, creed, disability, or sex, which ensures gender equality, which protects the right of the individual to life, liberty, basic education, basic health, and the right to vote in elections, the right to work, and the pursuit of happiness, which protects the identity and dignity and social and cultural values of Belizeans, including Belize indigenous people, which preserves the right of the individual to the ownership of private property and the right to operate private businesses, which prohibits the exploitation of man by man or by the state, which ensures a just system of social security and welfare, which protects the environment and which promotes international peace and security and cooperation among nations, the establishment of just and equitable international economic and social order in the world with respect for international law and treaty obligations in the dealings among nations. I go to section 3, and it says, protection of fundamental rights and freedoms. Section 3, whereas every person in Belize is entitled to the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual, that is to say, the right, whatever his race, place of origin, political opinions, color, creed, or sex, was subject to the respect for the rights and freedom of others, and for the public interest to each and all of the following, namely, A, life, liberty, security of persons, and the protection of the law. B, freedom of conscience, freedom of expression, and freedom of assembly, and freedom of association. C, protection for his family life, his personal privacy, the privacy of his home and other property, and recognition of his human dignity. And D, the last one, protection from arbitrary deprivation of property. So when Mr. Vicente is going to stand up there in the House and say that he wants to allow for the FIU to come and violate your rights and dispossess you of your property, the good gentleman is acting like a scofflaw, either ignorant of the Constitution which he swore to uphold, or intentionally, deliberately attempting to contravene and abrogate the rights of the citizenry of the country, which he is prohibited from doing. I'll read on to the A, that was the just a minute. Okay. The provisions of this part shall have effect for the purposes of affording protection to those rights and freedoms, subject to such limitations of that protection as are contained in those provisions, being limitations designated to ensure that the enjoyment of the said rights and freedoms by any person does not prejudice the rights and freedoms of other or the public interest. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the government is empowered to make laws that violates the Constitution or violates your basic civil rights with impunity and just cavalierly dispossess you of the power vested in you under the Constitution, which all of us as Belizeans are afforded the privilege and the right to be equal under the law. So whenever they come to the House and create these bogus laws, they're up to no good.
Thank you.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Leonard. Greg, let me go back a little bit on the job situation before I yield to Leonard, but you play that. But anyway, with that situation, when you had asked about, the jobs and the government created any jobs. No, we played that clip there, and we see that the jobs he's talking about is about the BPOs, right? And but like they're using it as part, and I don't know who they think they're fooling, right? And and they keep doing it, right? And as far as Greg, the IT vet thing that he mentioned, that we all know the IT vet is not operating well, and this and that, and a whole bunch of baloney. Well, if it's not operating well, fix it. If it's not right, if it's not operating well, fix the problem. That's why they elect you. Fix the problem. And I just hope and pray that these BPOs guys are paying the government. I would like that money to go directly to the IT vet department and not pass through the minister's hand, right? To train people, because it's the responsibility of the BPOs to train their employees, right, who they hire, not the responsibility of the taxpayers of this country, which that is exactly what is happening until he come and show me or show the nation, well, this is a receipt from the payment from the BPOs to the IT vet, and show me. That's the only way I would believe, right? That the BPOs are paying directly. So I guess they are paying, but we all know. Well, I won't say we all know. I know for a fact who they are paying. right? So,
Mr. Chairman, quickly on that same payment from the BPO, under the present financial criteria that we have, the BPO cannot pay directly to the school. They can pay for the school's services for their employees to be trained, as unlike what the Prime Minister is apparently trying to do, let them get the training for free. But if they pay, the money has to go into the consolidated funds because it has to be tracked. And that is how we track the funds of the country. Based on the present criteria, they can't pay directly. I was just trying to point that out to you.
The way my point, my belief,
well taken, sir.
My point and my belief, right, is that it's all a bunch of baloney, right? It's not been done the right way as to how it's supposed to be done, right? And there's always the under the table deal.
He's the Minister of Finance, and therefore he should have known better, or he should know better, as the Minister of Finance.
Using the taxpayers, right? To burden the taxpayers, Greg, and he's going to say that what is it the government creating jobs? They are creating jobs, and now straight out of high school, you could get one job. Man, who is this man talking to? And we all know that that's not happening. And they keep venom it out. That's my thing, man. Like I said when I started, stop the lying, man. People are getting tired of that, man. Right? Do right. Do right by the people. And like I say, that's just a commercial gimmick, and it's played out, Greg.
Campaign. So, like Greg said, campaign.
Thank you, Greg.
Gentlemen, I agree with you guys. The reason why I played that second clip was the past young lady from the teachers union, the head of the teachers union,
Mr. Smith,
is because she represents the business sector along with Pastor Bengoshe. And they were the one who had to do with the passing of the Civil Asset and Explain Wealth Bill.
They got understanding, like our Foreign Minister said.
So that the people at home and abroad can hear how she, after passing this bill, is worried that they might come after her. Because she's a senator and her husband is not one, and he might feel like though he do not have to disclose. And that is why I played a clip to present it in layman terms, so the people at home and abroad can understand what these people are after.
Yes.
And they will use these laws. They will use these laws selectively.
And
they will not use it over the board with any and everybody.
To further explain it, because if you listen to what the Prime Minister said, everybody is innocent. You have to protect them until proven guilty. Well, his finance officer does not see it that way. Listen.
Today, the Civil Asset Recovery and Unexplained Wealth Act was the focus of a joint initiative between the Financial Intelligence Unit, FIU, and the U.S. Embassy's Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs. This act gives the FIU the authority to recover assets and wealth acquired by individuals through criminal means. These persons will be investigated, and according to the Financial Secretary, Joseph Waite, anyone who's living in Belize can be the subject of the investigation.
This basically says, look, with the capacity and the training that we hope to get over in the coming months, this will give the authorities the tools to be able to say, look, if something looks cute, something looks funny, something looks unexplained, look into it and see. If it's proven that it is from an illegal source, it can be seized. No?
Includes everyone?
Yeah, everyone.
Including the Prime Minister?
Yeah, he's a citizen as well. Yeah.
The leader of a religious community?
Anybody who has unexplained wealth.
The legislation empowers the FIU to obtain an unexplained wealth order in case of suspicion. Once the court order is issued, the subject will be compelled to elucidate and disclose the origins of their assets and wealth before the High Court. Lenny Isigiri McGann is the director of the FIU.
We are the primary agency that will be responsible for making civil asset recovery applications or unexplained wealth applications.
All contrary to the
gentlemen.
Constitution. All against the
Now,
Constitution.
gentlemen,
For players.
does this bill not remind you of a certain law right now? The draconian gun law that was supposed to be made for gangbangers? And you
But
see
they
how
always
they
say
turn it
differently than what they actually
by
intend to
using
do.
enterprise, using it in enterprise, and is picking up from grandmother school children for a bullet that they find. There is no difference between that and this bill. Because at first you hear it was to go after drug addicts, gangbangers, money laundering people. But here you have the finance officer saying anybody. So if you have a
Everybody.
donor that does not want to
The
be
word.
publicized,
Every.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a quick comment?
if you have a donor
One quick
that
comment,
is
Greg.
protected by the Constitution,
Hold on,
yes,
Leonard. Hold on. Go ahead,
Do you
Leonard.
know what's going to happen with this situation that these people are creating back there in Belize, or legislators? That very same law, they're going to use it under the pretext of these people, like, let's say, for example, I'll give you a typical example. The Indians, the East Indian people, who own business houses on Albert Street and other places, or the Arabs, who own businesses in Belize, or the Feinsteins, or anybody, especially the Arabs, know that we're having, they're having a problem with money laundering or money transferring or money moving back and forward. External powers are going to bring pressure upon the government to create mischief with we money movers and money makers and money people in our country, and they're going to suppress we economy. And the government seem oblivious about that coming down the line for us to face. But when it happened, they will remember where they say on the show, because that is basically part of what is intended for it to be used. It's not intended to catch no little kids on the corner of the street where they peddle some drugs, make one money, and give their family one little change, or maybe pay for their rent or pay for their bills or help. That's not what it's intended for. These people don't operate on that level. International entities, when they come to your country and pressure your country to make you make those kind of laws, they know they have to the least small man that you that the government where they have to the least small man there, where they try to pressure your least small people there. But the small people want to be just the where I say it, casualties, incidental casualties. They are after the money movers and money changers. Because these people that do commerce in our country, they buy these goods from abroad with foreign exchange. And a lot of them make a lot of profit because they sell the stuff when they get from abroad to we Belize people for 4 and 5 times what they're actually paying for it. And sometimes they don't declare. I'm telling you this now based on what I know. So anyhow, anyone think that they want to carry me that could jump in at the hot fire and get them both burned. They don't declare all of the stuff that they bring through customs, and then they make a hell of a lot of extra money on top of the extra money that they sell you the things them at higher cost. They pay off some of these customs people to let them bring in their goods undeclared. The government knows that, and if they don't, they need to know it. Because this is not the first time I brought that to their attention. They're not going to find the taxes where they could get it, where it's duly deserving, and where they're entitled to receiving it from. They don't want to bother with those merchants, because those merchants, they pool their political contributions right? Only 10,000 here, only 10,000 there. By the time you have maybe on 25 or 100 and 10,000 times 100 is so much. You see what kind of money we talk about? That's how these people enroll. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Greg, you want
And
to
that
add something before I say?
we lost
I
him
want
for a
to.
second.
Yeah. You want to say something, Greg?
I think it is something bigger than that thereafter. Yes, right now in Europe, they're doing what they are called the electronic wallet, where they want to stop use money totally. And I think this is what America is after. Once you deposit your money and everything is there, they will allow you and your spending capability. They will know where you go when you travel, where you can travel. They want to have total control of all the wealth. So they want to get rid of cash. People in the EU will no longer need a passport because everything will be on that one card that they use to travel wherever they want to go. And I think they are aligning that because of what is happening with BRICS. They are trying to hold on to all the rest of wealth in the Caribbean, in Latin America, and they are lining it up to do that. That is what I think is happening.
I also want to
You know,
contribute a little on that. I see politics involved in it, right? I see that the present government, right, will use that to suppress their opponent. Vice versa, whether
There are
it was the
conclusions.
UDP in power, they were going to use that to, drag some opponent in through the courts and tarnish them, right?
Destroy them.
Yes.
The
So that is also what I see.
karma. Karma,
That,
Mr. Chairman.
yeah,
When they
I
least expect it.
also, yeah, I also see that one of their agenda too, Greg, right? So, guys, we're at, 20, 13 more
gentlemen,
minutes.
before we go any further,
And
let me
acknowledge.
acknowledge two users. Good night, all. Thank
Mr.
you
Rena
for
further.
tuning in, and I think we know who that is. And also, we have a user here that says, who they trying to fool, lot of love. You know who that user is
Yes.
speaking about.
Thank
We thank
you.
you for tuning in to this our 69th edition.
That's it.
Guys,
Gentlemen, I think we are about that time.
you see all the,
Go ahead.
all the 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 little things that they come up with, and all in the name of either covering up their butts or setting themselves up for
Immunity.
some, yes, exactly,
Immunity.
right. But I beg of these guys to please
Yes,
come
can't
to the
speak.
house on the next sitting, right, and tell the nation and the poor people that the jobs that you are really going to create, right? The factories that you are lobbying, the lobby for outside here, and this is the factories that we gonna bring to the country of Belize, so that we will create employment, right? Come to the nation and say that what you will do for the poor people in real, and stop the lying, right?
Uh,
Come to the nation with things that will benefit the poor and less fortunate. And there's my reason why I don't want to do that, because we don't profit off of these things. Like, for instance, we don't create one factory or bring one factory into the country, we don't hustle off it, right? That's why we don't do it. We concentrate on all the things that we hustle off, right? All the money that comes in the country to do projects, to do things for the nation, cut it in half, and the people get inferior inferior in product, right? While the half of the bulk of the money goes to UNO. UNO need to stop that. And like I always quote the man, and I'll leave this with you guys. I always quote the president of Salvador. If you don't thief the money, wonders could be done in a country, because
Well,
we
well,
have wealth and resource in this country.
well said, Mr. Chairman. As I said before, I thought and I think
We have 10 more
and I
minutes.
know that was a commercial for election. But this one speaks for itself. You don't have to say that loud.
For 3 full years, Briceño and his PUP government have punished Belizeans, taking away our food pantry, cutting school feeding programs, slashing all social safety net programs. Cost of living has gone through the roof with the oppressive taxes they're extracting from us at the fuel pump. PUP Tongue and city councils have neglected.
There you go.
Mr. Chairman.
There you go.
For 3 full years.
The part with the lands.
Go ahead, sir.
They give lands to who they want, and then turn around and take away lands from who are not part of the cabal. Okay? We could touch that. But there was another part that I wanted to mention before we leave the show tonight. How dare Mr. Barrow Shine was stipulate that he don't have no problems or objections to what the PUP government is doing as regards to, what we broadcast, right? Or what he said. It is not for him to be in dereliction of his responsibility and duty as an opposition to be agreeing with what the Prime Minister is trying to do to mess up with people in the country. Then he turn around and he want to get vexed when Mr. Faber say that he is not in agreement with what Mr. Shine said about the House Speaker, and that he is in agreement with him apologizing. So he want to kick the man out of the party. But he don't want to kick himself out of the party if he agree to what the Prime Minister do and make him be in the dereliction of his own job. You can't have it both ways.
Like, on that, Leonard, we don't have an opposition in this country. We don't. To me, I think we three here are the opposition, because we are the only ones that speak truth and speaking the ills of our country and bringing it forward and showing it in real time as to what these jackals are doing to us, right? In real time.
To the point where the man at the try make laws to stop Mr. Wade.
Exactly.
But they can't succeed at that either because they are so
Exactly.
It is very disturbing
So
when you only have individuals that want to step up at a certain time. Look at this Andre Perez matter. I heard nothing from the churches, nothing from the women's department, not one thing. And you know what is so obvious? It's obvious that we are not going to see anything better, because as we speak,
but they went ahead and make law mostly young lady though. They went to the House.
Senate inquiry still can't come about yet. Yes, the Senate inquiry still can't come about yet.
The Prime Minister is responsible for financing that Senate investigation. He has not given them a budget yet. And he will keep stalling, hoping that the time will run out and they will not be effective in being able to bring him to account, because that investigation is targeting him and his criminal conduct in office and suborning the cabinet, as well as suborning for we country and for we laws to the interests and well-being of Puerto Rico, a dead race organization of which he has interests. He's not about to finance no investigation against him. You know, yeah, where leader of Senate business tell the senators them that they will not be able to ask certain questions and they should just stick to the facts. Bunch of crazies.
That's why, guys, you know, on my opening there, I says that, you know, I call on our elected leaders, right, to the same way they marching against their, you know, they're marching in support of the Palestine, right? That's the same way I would like. I mean, like I say, you know, I have no problem with that. And furthermore, if you listen to the interview with Mr. Schumann, which a person I know his dealings from in the 60s and 70s, right?
One of the biggest scams then.
But anyway, I don't know what he's professing to be. They asked him if he is with Hamas. He take on three times they asked him, and the last thing he said, yes, he is with Hamas, right? He didn't say anything else. You know, he is with Hamas and he condemned Israel.
As leaders of we country. You know,
so I call on them, guys. Like I say, I'm for my people and nation. I call on them the same way they come to that group. The ministers, elected ministers, was out there, and we see them and we know who they are, right?
In the interest of the country.
What connection they have to Palestine? One of them mentioned it. His grandfather, right, came from. Nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is that he is in Belize,
and
so the same way
effort to do their job on behalf of our country too. You don't see them though. They scamper like roaches when it comes to doing something for Belize.
So the same way they're out there showing that cause for that entity, I would like for them to show the same cause for some of the same things that is happening here, the injustice, right, that is happening here in this country, the murders, the abuse, the domestic violence.
A lot of kids, they go to bed hungry at night because their parents not got none for Guinea.
Same way I would like to see them come out publicly. But do you see them 2023? Do you see them do that? No. So I call on them publicly. I call on them, right, to step up and start doing that.
Mr. Chairman, my thing on that is, I will say it again, I stand 100% with the Belizean government for what they're doing. Likewise, it's the same way if Guatemala tries to invade Belize, I would like to have outside connection to help us. What is happening in our country when it comes to our people is different from what is happening with Israel and Palestine. Belize has signed up and is under an international thing that has to do with that. And that is why they have said that.
Greg?
Okay? All countries in the world is under the Geneva Convention.
I do not justify and to each his own. Like I say, you know, a wrong is a wrong, right? But there are ways to go about doing that, right? But what I'm saying is that the same way I see these people come out for that cause, I would like to see them come out for the cause somebody dire needs here in this country. I see nothing wrong with what to each his own.
Be able to cut both ways.
Likewise, Mr. Wade, I would be the first to tell you, I would want to have my government leave America the hell alone, because they are the one who hosts the United Nations, and they are the one who is sending all the weapons and bomb over there to drop on innocent people. How can they call themselves a democratic country with all that phony baloney?
Greg,
you know?
Do you know how many French ships are over there, along with the American ships then? Do you know how many
Yes,
British ships are over there? You know how many German ships are over
I
there?
have said it before, and I want you guys to understand. It's a new form of colonialism called neo-colonialism, where white power, because they are super, they want to take over anywhere at any means necessary.
I have said it also. Let me give me a little minute here. I've always said it too, that since the war started, guys, that the way I felt, right, and the things that is happening, and I feel for the Palestinian people, right, for the innocent lives that's been lost, been taken, right, and you see the world media there, guys. They don't show much of that, right? But they only, right, the wrong that they did to Israel, the wrong that they did to Israel. They don't talk much about, the little babies that's much about that's been murdered, been bomb dropped on this hospital, and you don't hear them, right? That much about that, but they talk about the Israeli hostages, right? Hostages, this is the end result of some hostages, right? Well, in my military term, like I say, and my military experience, I think there should have been a better way to deal with what had happened, right?
Mr. Chairman,
In terms of them
when this
coming
is
over
over,
and
Mr.
taking those
Chairman,
hostages, it should have been a better way in dealing with that conflict there than dropping bomb the way Israeli and the outside entities are doing to that little Gaza, little Palestine, right?
Amen.
So, guys, it's always a pleasure, and you guys could take over and have your last word. And it's always a
Mr.
pleasure to
Chairman,
be in your
our
company.
just
And
to
we are
say this
32 already.
and
So.
what you just said.
Your last statement, Greg.
One minute over. 2 minutes
If we
over.
take away the 7th of October, when Hamas attacked Israel, put that aside as though it never exists. What has happened to the Palestinians for 77 years by the Israelis?
Okay.
But I can say this, when this is over, Israelis will be domesticated. There will be no way they can travel within the Middle East, because if they think Hamas is killing them now, they have the whole Middle East that is against them. And I want to see what protection they will have.
Okay.
Thank you.
What
Thank
I
you,
have
guys.
to say from
To our
my
viewers,
point.
listeners at home and abroad, thank you very much for supporting and tuning in. And until then, tune in on Friday, where Leonard will have his constitutional night.
We are deal with the same matters from a constitutional perspective this coming Friday.
Yes.
So I hope so, and then people who got them copy and the
Good night,
constitution pull it
one
out.
and all.
Good night. God bless and
Thank you.
God bless
Thank you.
you. Good night, sir.
Good night, one and all.